We are holding this safety forum at the request of the PTAs of Easter Middle, Old Greenwich, and Riverside schools. Before we introduce our panel, I would like to introduce three principals in attendance: Mark Guarino, Jason Martin, and Dr. Ben Savengo. Dr. Tony Jones, our superintendent, is probably going to join us shortly. She's in a meeting right now. I just want to let you know, if you want to ask a question, by all means, give me the sign and I'll hand you the microphone. That's so our folks watching live on Zoom can hear your question. Okay. We'll be monitoring our questions on Zoom. So if anyone at home wants to ask a question, please use the chat feature. I also want to let you know we have a hard stop at 10:15. So we have a good hour for all your questions. So let's get started. I want to introduce you our Director of Security, Mr. Brent Reeves.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this. School security is something I live and breathe every day. I'm a stakeholder in the community. I have a child in the schools. Little background with me, I've been here for over 27 years in Greenwich. I retired with 27 years with the PD 2 Julys ago. Part of the responsibilities that I have had in my last, call it 10 years of the PD, was running a squad of detectives and special victims and then a community impact section. During that period of time, that's when I became involved with the schools, because we handled all juvenile matters. The school resource officers reported to that office. We conducted all the lockdown drills, the safety drills, any security events that took place. We would investigate them out of that office. And then that's how I came over here when this became available. I retired and took on this job. I have Deputy Chief Mark Zuccarello here with me, and then also SRO Wallace. Like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Mark. As Brent mentioned, my longest tenure in the department was with our special victims section. So I handled all the juvenile matters as well as all the school-related matters. I was in this room a lot in those years for Board of Ed hearings. And I've been with the department for 26 years. And again, as Brent mentioned, schools and protecting the children is something that I've always been passionate about, and it was probably why I did it for 10 years before I got promoted up. Pleasure, and thanks for having me here today.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Wallace. Everyone just calls me Wally, though. So if you call me Chris, I won't answer to that. So I've been with the department for 14 years. For the last 5, I've been one of our school resource officers. So usually I am stationed at the high school every day. However, I do help out with the other schools as well, whether it's the middle schools or elementary schools, whether it's education, school talks, all that thing. Keeping your kids safe in the school is a huge, huge priority of mine. It's one of my #1 jobs. So happy to be here today and answer any questions.
So you can see just the three of us here, the depth and breadth of the experience is quite extensive. We're going to go straight into questions because we're here for you today. And I don't think it does any good for me just to sit up here and tell you what we do. I want to know what your concerns are. We want to listen to you. We want to hear what you have to say. And then hopefully we can all leave here with a smile on our face, feeling better about the status of school security here at Greenwich Public Schools. So, good morning.
Who wants to start? I got you.
Thank you for holding this forum. I just have a question in terms of, so obviously we're all aware of the incident that happened at Easter Middle School. If, resources aside, what measures do you think would be helpful to implement to make students feel safer, kids feel safer, and for the community to be safer at the schools, whether it be, a permanent police presence at every single school rather than rotating police presence or more cameras? Just curious from your perspective, like if resources weren't, the issue, what would be on your wish list to make things safer for the community? Thank you.
Excellent question. It's and it's not a 1-second answer, by the way. So it's going to be that was pretty involved. So of course, my wish list, I would love to have an officer in every school, right? I think everybody would like that. Okay. And, to that end, I'll defer to the deputy chief on, answering that component. I can tell you what we do though. right? So cameras, for example, you raise cameras. We have over 630 cameras in our district right now. They're monitored basically all day. I keep them up, and you're welcome when we exit. You can walk by the office and take a peek if you'd like. Not only are they up in my office, I have the entire district up. Each individual school monitors their cameras, and in the police dispatch center, they have 2 large screen TVs in the dispatch center where they monitor all of our cameras. They have access to everything that we have, and they can monitor them 24 hours a day, just like we do. As far as target hardening, and does everybody know what target hardening is? That's where we try to make the building less penetrable, right? When you hear things about laminates or ballistic glass or certain types of locks, fences, gates, those are all physical target hardening things that we do throughout the schools. Some of those we can discuss in a public forum, some of them we can't, and I think everybody understands the reason why, because if we tell you where things are and where things aren't, that negates the whole point of doing it. Now, as far as the police presence at the schools, I'm going to defer to Deputy Chief Zuccarella on that.
Yeah, I mean, if I had my way, yeah, we would have police officers at all the schools, public, private. I'd have officers at Greenwich Hospital. I have officers everywhere I could. Anywhere where there's a large group of people every day, I would have an officer. But that's, unfortunately, it's not reality. That would be a lot more people that we have working for us right now on top of our regular patrol duties that we have to do. But what we do routinely is we monitor, we look over our, we do a monthly review, quarterly review of all of our activity in the town, and we reassess and divert resources that we do have to areas where we need it. We know that during the 180 days of the schools are one of our top priorities, as with the rest of the town. So the officers are instructed, not just the school security officers, the other officers are instructed during the school day, do your activity in and around the schools. So there's 2 kinds of activity an officer does: committed time and not committed time. So going to an alarm, handling a complaint, that officer is committed. When they're writing the report, or when they're just sitting there because you can't drive around for 8 hours, we tell them to do it in and around the areas of the school. Be visible sometimes and don't be visible sometimes. That's, again, it's a tactic or some tactics that we tell them to use, because we want to keep people on their toes. I'm a parent myself. I grew up in this town. Went to private school, went to a Catholic school in this town. But my children grew up in Easton, and we have the same kind of concerns. There was an incident there with my children were there that was upsetting. It's very similar to this Eastern Middle School one. And the one thing that I did for my children was just communicate with them. And I told them, the truth, or not the truth, but what's the reality, that schools in this town are very safe. This town is very safe. And yes, but bad things do happen. And as parents and as the police department, we try and mitigate these bad things from happening. We can't be everywhere at all the time. So we have to make sure that our officers are in those places to at least, scare away something that may happen or could happen. But again, things do happen, and when that does happen, we respond to it. I can't really talk about the case other than that it's positive right now, and we're going in the right direction with regard to the investigation. Look into that how you will. But we learn from incidents. In this incident, I know, talking with Brent, some things are changing at his end, and some things have changed on our end. Again, you may not see them, but they have, with regard to deployment of the officers and just the day-to-day activity. And again, if I could send a police officer everywhere where somebody wants one, we would. So we're trying to find ways to do that within our confines.
Sorry, I know I walked in a couple minutes late, so I don't know if this question has been asked, but I think after the incident, and I know there've been some other car theft incidents in the area of Riverside, given the quick access to the Post Road and I-95 at Exit 5 from certain areas near that, i.e. where the incident occurred, is there any thought being put around that in terms of some of the changes being made or what we're learning from this, like how to maybe slow that down or prevent perpetrators, or however you want to call them, from getting into Riverside quickly or getting out of Riverside quickly as an incentive for doing things there?
Do you mean the general area of Riverside, not the school?
I mean, the general area of Riverside.
That's a police.
Yeah, without, police tactics, that's what I like to say. Yeah, we are leveraging technology and have been throughout the town, but in the Riverside area for some time now. Exit 5 is a big, it's a big exit. It's just an area. It's a egress of people getting off I-95. You have McDonald's right there in the Hathaway Shopping Center. That's been an area for the East End cars. Car post 53, which is Riverside, as well as 58 North Miamis, and then 54 to always monitor that area. That's an area of town that they generally always are traveling around because of, there's a lot of stores there. And again, exit 5. We do have access to this technology that does tell us when people are, the license plate readers. Every police car, by the way, has one as well, but there's fixed license plate readers. So those tell us who's going and who's coming. And we have, you mentioned car thefts. We have reduced our car thefts in town, and car thefts in town are tracking down. But I have to make the note that 99%, not all of them, because there was one this year, all the keys are in the car and the cars are unlocked. So, but we can't keep people from coming into town. I mean, Brent and I always used to joke around about this. If I could put like this force field or, make like a moat around Greenwich, we would, but again, we can't. So then we have to just leverage what we can do, and technology is one of them. There are some things that we're looking to do for the next budget year, starting in July, adding more technology, mostly with drones to help us be, eyes in the sky when an incident does happen, to get it right, to get it to the scene right away. But again, we focus our patrol activity on where the crimes are occurring and where the incidents are, or where the potential incidents are. So again, in Riverside, that post is nice because you have two schools right next to one another. So it's easier for the officer to patrol the target schools, and then just go right down the hill. You're in Old Greenwich, Old Greenwich School. So that's what they do. We are, like I mentioned before, we alter our patrol patterns to the crimes that have occurred, but also to mitigate the crimes that do come. Because in this town, our regular crime is cyclical. I know what's already going to happen this time of year. I know burglaries increase. I know that, for example, with school kids, when the school starts, juvenile delinquency goes up, and then it disappears right around this time after Halloween. And then it picks back up again in the spring. And, I look back to when I was a kid, I'm like, yeah, those are the two times when I was most rambunctious. And then in the summer, it kind of goes away. So things like that we plan for, and we allocate our resources to that. But as for trying to keep people out, we just have to be proactive in our policing, and we're doing that. We increased our motor vehicle enforcement. That's the biggest thing that any police department can do to be proactive, is their motor vehicle enforcement. Because it's shown that when we increase our motor vehicle enforcement, we reduce car accidents and reduce crime. So when we do the motor vehicle enforcement in areas of high accidents and where our crime are occurring, we see those go down, and that is happening. We are trending down in motor vehicle thefts and larcenies from motor vehicle. Those two are related. We have been trending down for the last couple of years with regard to our delinquencies at the schools with our diversionary programs. But that doesn't mean nothing can come right back, and it doesn't mean incidents won't happen. And that's where we have to make sure that our mitigating strategies that we do to be able to pivot and respond.
If
Cop car driving around, go through a stop sign, pull you over, gives you a ticket. But really, it's mostly, we just want the officers to be out there with their lights on, and the best way to be visible is, sounds silly, pulling you over, but that's kind of what they do. They're in a non-committed time.
And if I could just add to what Deputy Chief Zuccarello said is, so what he's referring to with the inability for us to have a cop at every place, but we patrol and we have officers who go to the schools, that's omnipresence. That's what we're looking to accomplish, right? And when you look at the security, it's whether it be for the town or for the schools, we're under constant assessment, okay? So as the police develop new tactics and new needs, and they develop different technologies. The same goes for the schools. As I walk around the schools throughout the day, I do what's called a formative assessment, because that's half of my day is usually out in the district at the schools. When I walk around, if I notice something and we get that addressed by the appropriate department, if we notice gaps in our security, blind spots at a school, we'll have the vendors come out and we'll get a camera project going. So we stay very up to date on that, and we work in very close conjunction with the police department on all these matters.
Gentlemen, we have a question online from one of our viewers. Mike?
Actually, a few attendees have asked this, and you were just talking about blind spots. Can you talk about if you've added any cameras in the EMS area and or the possibility of adding a crossing guard at Lockwood?
Sure. So regarding the cameras, just to give you an idea, so last year we did 2 camera projects. We added some cameras to a blind spot in Coscob. We did the same thing in North Miamis. This year, after the Eastern Middle School event, I went down to Riverside and to Eastern with our vendor, and we looked around to try to determine if we had any blind spots that we could fix with the installation of some new cameras. Now, the area behind Eastern where that trail is, it's a little bit complicated because there's a lot of trees in the area, and we have to be careful with trees. You know, if you ever want to cut a branch off a tree, it's you have to get Dr. Kramer involved. And so we found a spot on the back of the school that's actually ideal. We're going to be installing a very high focal length camera on the back of the school, so we can actually zoom all the way out from the back of Eastern Middle School to where the baseball diamond is. And unfortunately, the trail then curves. We can't see around the curve, but we'll be able to monitor that entire trail with a camera where when we zoom in, it won't get pixelated, so we could also get the identity of somebody if we needed to.
So my concerns are specifically around Riverside because it's one of the oldest buildings and we're due for renovation. And I understand that you walked through recently and identified that there were issues that could be fixed. When can we expect that to happen? And do we have to wait for the renovation for like the most specific and serious things to be addressed? And then specifically my questions about the Hendry door. It's the door that our children use all day, every day to go to the playground. And it's also the only door in the building that is on a double yellow line street closest to Post Road and 95 and doesn't have a camera on it. So why are our children using it all day, every day? And can we find a solution to use a door that is safer and less visible and also has a camera on it? Thanks.
Excellent question. Thank you. So I did go down to Riverside the other day. I brought our security specialist. That's our vendor that we use. So we went down there and we took a look around, and we did identify that there is some blind spots on that side of the building. So we're in the process of getting a quote to have 5 cameras installed over there. Part of the issue with that side of the building where the playground is the shrubbery that's overgrown over there. So what I'm doing is I'm having Parks and Rec. They have to wait till the plants go dormant, where it says 50 degrees or less. So November 15th is the day that Parks and Rec told me they could go look. So they're going to take out all the forsythia bushes that are in front of the playground that block the view from the school into the playground. Because right now you can't see in the playground from the school, but you can see the playground from the street. So we're replanting all those forsythia bushes, taking them out of the front and planting them along the side to block the view from the street, allowing us to be able to see into the playground from the school. In addition, we're having those trees that are on the side over there trimmed back to allow for better viewing. And I'm having 2 cameras installed at the highest elevation of the school on that side of the building. One's going to specifically look at the playground. The other one's going to be what's called a PTZ camera, pan-tilt zoom, so that Jason can zoom that camera around the field depending on what activities are going on. Now, to the Riverside door side, there's definitely a blind spot there, and we're installing cameras in there as well so that we can see that much more readily. As far as the concerns for that particular door, when we were evaluating that, that door is actually necessary because that's the closest door for the playground, and it does have electronic access control on it. So that door is going to continue to be used because if the children are out in the field, they need to get into the school quickly. That's actually the closest door. There are a couple of target hardening items that we're looking at for that door. I'm not going to go into them in this public forum, but we are addressing that concern. The door is going to continue to be used. Number one, it's a fire exit. They have to be allowed egress. Number two, that is the closest door to the playground. So I think when we look at the comprehensive changes that are taking place for that specific area of the school, that should address your needs. I'm also looking at a couple of fencing ideas, though fencing is generally not popular. There are a couple of ways we could drive pedestrian traffic to specific areas. So that's being evaluated as well.
Gentlemen, we have another question online. Mike?
Sure. A couple participants have asked about this. What can you provide your thoughts on the possibility of working with the neighbors or the parents to do a community watch or kind of walk around the outsides of the school grounds to assist the GPD?
Maybe well.
So I'm just going to talk in general for the high school, and this could apply to any school. However, since I am at the high school most days, if we started having neighbors walk around the school and they're not readily identifiable as who is this person, I'm going to be addressing them a lot. Even like I've addressed Uber drivers. I'll give you an example. One time an Uber driver didn't know where to drop off their kids' Uber Eat food to the high school, and they didn't know where to drop off the kids' lunch. So this Uber Eats driver came into the high school and was giving a security guard a hard time. And I gave them a very simple option of either to go into the main entrance where they're supposed to go or leave in handcuffs. We really don't want people we can't identify without a Board of Ed badge or a police uniform walking around our campus. Because we don't know who those people are. We don't know what their intentions are. And again, my job at that high school, one of my main jobs, I have many jobs there, but one of my main jobs is to keep everyone safe. And a neighborhood watch, I know it's a great idea in theory. However, I could see it getting complicated because we can't identify all the neighbors who would be willing to help us. And I could see it becoming a little bit more of a complicated issue.
So one of the things, it's against state law, actually. Well, not actually. It is against state law for someone who is not a student at a school or who works at a school to be on school grounds when school is in session. After school is in session, people can go play in the playground, but still they're not supposed to be on school grounds. They're parks, but they're not public parks. That's reality. But what happens is after school, you want to go play in a playground, no one's going to get mad at you. But during the school day, no one's supposed to be on the school ground other than the people who work there or have business at the school. But one of the things that our community impact section is looking into is we are looking to broaden our community outreach. I don't want to say neighborhood watch, but that is kind of what it is with regard to each of our communities. Each of our parts of town has a citizen and police partnership, north, south, east, west. And we're looking to reinvigorate the program. After COVID, everything kind of got slow and dormant, but we're looking to reinvigorate that. And part of that would be like a traditional neighborhood watch style type of information network that was the Citizens and Police Partnership always was about. It was, you would have your community stakeholders meet once a month with the police department in their town and bring the issues to their town, to the group. And a lot of time when I was on the West Side CAP many years ago, in Glenville, we talked about Glenville School. I mean, the parents would come and bring issues about Glenville School back in 2004 and 5. And then we would relay that to the Board of Ed. But yeah, there's a lot of things that the public can do right now is they can sign up for the Town of Greenwich's emergency alerts, and they will receive emergency alerts from the Town of Greenwich regarding weather or any other instance. But also with that is to follow us on our Facebook page, our police department's Facebook page, Instagram page, our X page. Go to our web page and copy down and click the link, contact us. We have several different ways that the public can reach us rather than calling 911. You can leave a criminal tip, you can leave a comment, you can make a complaint about an officer, you can just contact us, or you can leave a confidential tip on something. So generally, when we do have an incident, and we used it during the Eastern Middle School incident, we posted out, if you have any information, contact these numbers, confidential numbers and emails. And we received a lot of information from the public in and around the schools, which was very helpful in getting us to where we are now with that particular case. So I agree with Wally about, we don't want people trouncing around school grounds, but we will be working, information will be coming out from our department about citizens and police partnerships. So again, you'll find out about that on our social media pages and as well as the town's website.
If
Hope
I
that
could,
answers the
just
person's
just
question.
one more piece to that question. What I like about that question is that actually speaks to the first layer of school security, which is really the community first, right? So community, the parents, relatives, friends, that's really the first layer of the school security onion, is what's going on out in Greenwich. What are my children doing online? What are my children doing when I'm not at home? And then identifying any issues and bringing those to the attention of people who can support those children. Thank you.
Good morning. Deputy Chief Zuccarello, you said it would be an ideal situation to have a school police officer in every Greenwich school. I think this is something a lot of parents are really interested in. Could you please tell us exactly what your department would need to make that happen, and what we as a community of parents who really care, what we could do to help, whether it's going to the BET, writing letters to the RTM? How do you think we could get there, and how could the parents help?
The problem is, it's just staffing. We have 152 officers. So you take away the command staff, there's 146 officers that are divided up in the day to do all the duties that we need to do, that we have been doing. To put an officer in every school, we would need to hire another 20 people. That unfortunately is not realistic. It's not possible. It's not, I don't think that's going to happen in my time here, just because of the amount of people that is. And that would have to be added to the department. Our department is authorized for 152 people. As I said, that would make it 172. But there are alternatives, and we are continuing to reassess how we do with the school security aspect of our daily duties. And just last week, Chief Evie and I and the other command staff members were talking about other ways that we can augment it. But again, it's just something that we have to talk to. It's a lot of different stakeholders in it. It's not just the police department. It's the Board of Ed. It's the government. It's the residents around the schools. Everybody's going to be a stakeholder in how we do this. If adding staffing and adding headcount to a town department is very difficult, as you're aware when you read about the budget stuff in the papers. But we are, as I mentioned, always assessing and looking at ideas. And no idea is, I always say no idea is silly, because I have a lot of them that are silly. But we, because that's how we get change. We just got to come up with something, these big blue sky type of thoughts, and try and get it done. But to get the amount of people that we would need to have that done, there would have to be a massive paradigm shift in town thinking, in the department's thinking, how we patrol, but how we staff as well. But we're working on alternatives.
Thank you very much for all that you do. Just want to take a moment to appreciate that. I recognize there's a lot of work. You've been able to answer our questions with so much impressive detail. Thank you also for giving up an hour of your day to answer some of these questions. So that was first. And the ways that you all have had to shift based on the event that happened at Eastern Middle School and the things that we're learning. Is there a concern that that won't be permanent, that that is a temporary adjustment? I hear that resources are an issue, and I'm going to ask you two more questions just because I have the microphone, but hopefully they all somewhat blend in with each other. So first, with the resources and knowing that we need to make these shifts and feeling like, you're able to accommodate them. The second is training for those officers that do spend time at the schools, is there a specialty training program that's different or additional to the training that you all already do? And then third, with that training, I'm hearing a lot of discussion on the like on foot patrolling, but I think there's also this concern for the internet and the things that bubble up before they become issues that are on foot. Can we spend a few minutes also talking about that?
I can take the internet.
Let me
stuff.
just touch on the resource component. So the resources that we expend at the Board of Ed for physical security, those are not one and dones. When I put cameras in place, they stay in place. When we spend money on target hardening, that stays in place and we maintain that. So as far as our resources are concerned, once we expend that, we maintain it and it stays. Yeah.
As far as the training goes, I can talk a little bit about my training and my interactions daily with our school security officers. So my role is a little bit different than the school security officers. They are there for primary security. I am there I'm available to all the schools for not just security, but everything else that you can think of. Like I go from being a police officer at the school, I'm also a coach at the school and like everything in between. So when it comes to the training, my training as a school resource officer, I've been to a basic school resource officer school, which is put on by National Alliance of School Resource Officers, and the advanced training that's put on by the same organization. If an incident does happen at a school, I have my police radio. I also have a Board of Ed radio. So I can hear everything going on at all the schools. I also have access to all the cameras. So if I hear anything going on at any of the schools, I'm able to get right on the phone with the officer there, give them some guidance, or even respond myself over to those schools because we have 2 officers at the high school. So one of us can always go to the other schools if need be to provide that additional support, because sometimes it may be a police issue that the officer could be familiar with, but it might be a little bit more where my expertise could be a little bit beneficial. And then when it comes to the internet stuff, so that is a topic that when Brent was my supervisor, he kind of helped me with, and it's an ever evolving issue. There's always a new app out there. There's always something new that our kids are on. Like first it was like Instagram, and it was Snapchat. Now it's TikTok, and who knows what the next thing will be. Luckily, with the way the police department sees the school resource officers, we're a huge asset to them, and they provide us with training, not just the training I talked about, but constant training when school's not in session. So over the summer, we are constantly going to new trainings, learning about new internet trends that are happening. And I do a lot of talks with PTAs or just the student body in general about internet safety and the things to look out for. I'm doing one very soon I get booked a lot, so I get confused of where I'm going. It's all on my calendar. I do write it down, but that is something I'm happy to come do at any of the schools anytime I'm asked. And I think it's very helpful for the parents to hear what's going on. I have 2 stepdaughters, and you always hear about these new things that are going on, and it's like, or just coaching my athletes. I coach the boys track team at the high school, and I have 100 athletes on my team. So I get to hear a lot about these new trends or like what they're saying. And so I'm kind of in it. And, but for parents to hear it, it's very important, because what you learned about was cool like 2 months ago. So we always try and be ahead of the curve, but luckily, thanks to our administration at the police department, I'm allowed to get this constant training and updates from it.
So, but just real quick, first thing, we aren't reducing any staffing currently now. So whatever we were doing now with regard to extra presence around all the schools, not just the East Side schools, is still going to happen because we still have those people working. 2, with regard to what the training they have is, the officers are not school resource officers. We don't want them in the school because they have to respond to other schools, but they have the same training. And we have actually started last year giving the officers assigned to the school security patrol more training with regard to police tactics, with regard to addressing any threat. And then they are also the direct line to Brent. Their main thing is to go around the school and see any policy violations on whether our end or policy meaning against 5 different procedures you have: lockdown, blackout, secure building, things, safety concerns, to get those addressed right away. And with regard to the internet, our detective division, mostly our special victims section, does one thing. Our community impact and some other detectives do another. With social media mining, we're always looking. We're always trying to find out what's happening. But the biggest thing that we need with regard to the internet is the parents telling us what's going on and happening. Again, I mentioned we have a confidential tip line. All you have to do is say that, send a message saying, my daughter, my son is on this app and I don't like it. And if it's something that we can try and address, we will. A lot of these platforms have terms of use that most kids violate. I know my kids did, because they weren't of age, and they were able to somehow get on the account. So I was able to turn it off on the phone. But anyway, so we are doing all that stuff. But again, we are only as good as parents as we are with our children, and educating them and when to speak up and say, Mom, Dad, this is not good. Or Mom, Dad, in school, I saw the door propped open. Or Mom, Dad, I haven't seen the cop drive around school for a while. Is he still driving around, or she's still driving around? We want to hear that so we can address that.
Thanks for your time. And I appreciate all the efforts you guys are doing to keep our kids safe. I'm hearing a lot of things that I would deem to be sort of defensive measures, things to protect our kids during an incident or after an incident, things like officers on campus, cameras, lockdown procedures, ballistic glass. You've touched a little bit on social media monitoring and community. Can you talk just holistically about what the town is doing just to prevent these incidents from happening in the first place, not just protecting once they do?
We're gonna go through, we're gonna talk about threat and risk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So I think what you're referring to is how do we proactively monitor children who may need support, right? Or engaging in behaviors that could be considered threatening or risky. And that was a big part of what we did when I was in charge of juvenile matters. And when I took that over from Mark, who was running it before me, we have a process in place. So for example, I'll walk you through what is a threat and a risk assessment, right? So if a student engages in threatening behavior and it comes to the attention of the school will then do a threat assessment on the child. Every threat and risk assessment in the district gets funneled to the 2 school resource officers at the high school. They're the clearinghouse. And this is to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. Now there's a chain of events that take place after it comes to the attention of Fred and Wally, and I'll let Wally go ahead and speak to that.
Yeah. So when it comes to the risk assessments, and that could be sort of anything that we can deem a possible risk. Someone saying something online, someone posting something, someone saying something to another student. We will get these from our mental health teams at each school. So it's kind of like 2 aspects, but put together. The school does their half of it, but then we do our half of it, where we will do a police report on it just to keep it in-house so we can monitor it. We also will do a weapons check of the house if need be, to see if there's any registered firearms there. Again, my job, like ideally my job as a school resource officer, I don't want to be the bad guy, right? I want to be the one the children can come to and talk to. I don't want to be a scary police officer that kids think that will get in trouble. I kind of want to be the one that they know they can come to. And I think we've done a very good job of that. That's why I wanted to become a coach, not just because I love the sport, but I knew that's a good way to make this uniform less scary. So beyond just what we do with the risk assessments, again, being at the high school and we're very approachable to all the students. So I will have kids tell me, you would be shocked at things like if you came to the high school and heard what kids will tell me, they'll be like, wow, they're telling a police officer that? But again, that's my job. I want to be officer friendly, because when I go to the other schools, like if I go to Eastern Middle School, kids will come up to me like, wait, are you Officer Wally? My brother knows you from the high school. And then that trickles down and into the elementary schools. So by having that positive police presence, and now by having positive police interactions at all of our schools, kids are now a little bit more comfortable in telling us things too, which is a good way to kind of stop things before they happened. We also have programs like Anonymous Alerts and Gaggle, if you want to touch on that too. That we have a program called Gaggle, which will monitor student emails. So if a student says a certain word, the school will be notified, Brent's notified. And then me and Officer Reich, the two school resource officers, are also notified so we can all kind of collectively work together to provide supports if need be. And then at the high school, we have anonymous alerts where a student, and it's truly anonymous. We don't just say that and then like figure out who it is. No, it's truly anonymous, and kids can report things to us as well. And we always have an open door policy. All the schools have my phone number. I'll give you all my card. Like, again, we want to be out there and hearing things before they become something bigger.
And what, just to speak to that a little bit more, I think it shows the importance of having a web in place, right? So it's not just one individual, there are systems in place, catch-alls, if you will. And then just to go back to what Officer Wallace was saying about the risk and threat assessments, after they do a weapons check, if, say, weapons show up at the family's home when they run them to see if they're registered, they'll actually call the family up to ensure that they're being stored in compliance with state statute and that the children don't have access to them. So it really takes it from the beginning where the concern was initiated through the support stage for the child and then through to the police department to ensure that that weapon never gets in the hands of that child. Yeah. And elementary and middle schools as well. It's not just for the high schools. So they are the clearinghouse for the entire district, all of our schools.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. You mentioned earlier, my question is specifically about the cameras. You mentioned that there are a total of 630 of them. A lot of our schools are very old, and we're doing a lot of renovations, which is very exciting. But that just seems like a lot of cameras, and we just wanted to know we know you guys are all very busy. We know our principals are very busy. So who is monitoring them on the daily? And then also, are there alerts for suspicious activity? And just more detail on that would be great.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So yeah, 630 cameras sounds like a lot. Subtract 130 from the high school, that gives us 500 for the remaining buildings in the district. So when you break it down, it's really not a lot of cameras. And like I mentioned earlier, even with all these cameras, as I go around and do my formative assessments, I still on a daily basis can identify areas where we could always put more cameras. But what I'd like to highlight about cameras is one thing is that is not a preventative measure. It merely records what took place. We actually have one of the best security systems that you can buy in our town. We use the Avigilon system, which is all manufactured here in North America. And we use one system for the entire district. All the principals and APs throughout the district and the deans at the high school are trained how to use it and have access to their specific schools. As far as monitoring is concerned, like I mentioned, I keep up a screen in my office where I have the front door of every school and the front circle of every school. So I just one set of eyes. Also in the dispatch center, they have 2 TVs about that size with more now in the new dispatch center with cameras for the entire district. And then, as I said, the principals and the admins in each building have the camera systems up in their vicinity so that they could watch them.
Too.
What's that?
We have them too.
Oh, and the SROs have them as well in their offices at the high school. What's it? Yeah, so there's some analytics and motion sensing on them, but as far as the threat detection, I'll give you a little context for this. I keep an eye on what the new technology is, right? And everybody's AI right now. I probably get 5 phone calls a day of people trying to sell me AI products for weapons detection. And I'm going to get into the weeds on this a little bit, and it's important why. So one of the big products out there right now is AI weapons detection. And when I went to the ISC East conference last year down in the city, we looked at some of these technologies, and they're in their infancy. They're really not viable right now, and here's the reason why. When I went to one of the booths and the vendor was explaining to me how his AI weapons detection product works, he said, well, as soon as somebody takes a weapon out, it can identify a weapon and then it sends alerts out. And I said, well, how long does the process take? So it takes a couple seconds to identify a weapon, a couple seconds to send out a signal. The problem is that I can draw my gun and shoot 15 rounds probably in 4 to 5 seconds. So the AI weapons detection doesn't do us any good if it can't detect a weapon in your in your pants, in your hip, in your pocket. By the time it's in your hand, it's already too late. So to spend the money on something that really we don't get a benefit from just yet doesn't make sense. So we shift those resources to other things like preventatives, right? Hardening the target, better surveillance. And then just to touch on the relationship component that Deputy Chief Zuccarello and Officer Wallace mentioned, that's really the key to school security. I mentioned earlier that the first layer is really the community, but a big piece of it is an example of what we see here today, the relationship between the Board of Ed, school security, the families, the stakeholders, the police departments, the other first responders. Together, what we do is we create that web of security around our schools to comfort and make our children feel safe when we drop them off and they're no longer in our control every day.
Gentlemen, we have a question online.
So this is a combination of a few different questions. If you could talk about do the cameras have signs on them that say 24-hour surveillance as a preventative measure? Could at drop off and pickup have a higher police presence? And then to circle back to the possibility of adding a crossing guard to Lockwood, if you could talk about those three things, please.
So regarding the camera signs, I mean, the cameras are out there. People are under constant surveillance every day, no matter where you go. Putting a sign up really is just going to create more sign pollution they don't really help. You know, if I tell you you're under surveillance because there's a camera there, it's kind of duplicative, right? There's a camera there, you look at it, you know you're being surveilled. As far as the police question,
Crossing guard.
yeah. So the crossing guard at Lockwood, is that I guess I'll have to ask a question, but is that a traffic concern or a security concern? The crossing guard really isn't for security. They would be specific to traffic. And if we wanted to place a crossing guard there, we would go down with traffic from the PD and do a count study to see how many people actually cross the street and what the traffic count is to ensure that it's safe for children to cross. So we would have to look at that.
All right, gentlemen, we got about 10 more minutes.
I know there's a lot of OG families here, and I want you to hear this from me. I'm the daughter. My father worked for Yale Police. They carry New Haven badges for over 30 years. My job is to get your 400 children home safe so that I can go home safe to mine. And that is what we prioritize. And I feel, and my teachers feel, very safe. And I want you to hear that from us. This team is incredible. We are so blessed. Before the cameras pick up anything, my teachers carry walkies and they call me and say, there's a woman on the plaza with her 2-year-old. Could somebody come address that? And I'm the mean lady that goes out and says, I'm sorry, our playground is closed during the day. Can you please take your child to Binney or somewhere else? And we respond all day long to things. We had I called Brent and said, I have people who are driving on the plaza to drop food off. And he immediately got me, these yellow chains to put up to deter that. And they still drive on the plaza, and we go out and say, I'm sorry, this is not a road. And the officer yesterday happened to be there and saw it and addressed the person who drove on the plaza. We are responding, I assure you, all day, every day, keeping your kids safe. And you need to hear that, because I know you're all concerned. We're safe. And I trust that there's never 100% safety. I know, but we work so hard to keep your kids safe.
I just answer the last part of the question that was asked. Yes, even prior to the incident at Eastern Middle School, part of the school security patrols, part of the officers' patrols is to know their posts. So yes, during school drop-off and school pickup, if the police officer on duty on the post, the school security patrol can't be at 2 schools at once. So they usually will try and coordinate with the officers, try to be at the schools for pickup and drop off. However, being honest and forthright, if something's going on, the officers can't be there that particular day. But during their day, for situational awareness, the officers are supposed to know on their posts where their large meetings are. Schools are the biggest one during the school year, and they'll be in the area in the morning in the afternoon. Again, just because you don't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. And I just want a follow up to your question, sir. So end ears with the cameras. I do this all the time. I tend to focus on one thing without realizing that security in general is meant to be an inconvenience. And so security is not just one thing. It's cameras. It's cops driving by. It's the threat assessments. It's the risk assessments. It's the teachers and the staff of the professional staff of the school going out and confronting people. It's the person greeting the students when they walk in the morning. It's the actual physical structure of the building. It's the follow-up in the maintenance and the follow-up of the building. It's everything. When you add everything together, that's how we need to assess any security issues that we have. So the mitigation part of it, the threat and risk assessments are both reactionary and a mitigation. Because when I first started working here, 1999, but in 2000, it was early 2000s before I was moved out. So I'd have been 2001 or two. I was kicked out of the Greenwich High School parking lot for eating my lunch by the staff of the Greenwich High School because they didn't want the cops there. And then when I got in charge of the juvenile matters, they said, we're changing that. And working with the Board of Ed and the schools, we did, to the point now where we only really focused on the high school because that's where the school resource officers were. It's been pushed down now to the kindergartens. The schools, I'm sure they still do invite us to school talks, not only in middle school, but elementary schools. And it's educating the parents. That's the other part of security, educating the parents. If the parents are educated, the kids will be educated. Again, all these things happen. It's like a big dance or a ballet, and it's just one big mess of things happening at once that are independently are great, but together as a whole, they make this, as Brent said, this web of security. And when we look at that, that's how kind of we have to look at things. Now, some things might not work. Cameras only catch things that are happening or happened. There are cameras out there that will go start making all these bells and whistles that when something's happening, but then that only works if somebody's monitoring them. So on our end, we are looking at to improve our dispatch center with technology for the future. So you could have somebody sit there like this with 1,000 cameras, and when something happens, the eyes go. I mean, that's what happens in New York City. That's what happens in big real-time crime centers. That's how they see things happening, but it's happening. Our goal, what I like to focus on is the before. And that is where the inconvenience of security gets in the way, causes problems. Locking the door so no one can walk into the school. You just used to be able to walk into a school. Just in that of itself sends a message to a would-be person who wants to do harm. This school is owned by somebody who doesn't want me here. And that's the staff and that's the parents that really are the big drawing ones for that, to say that school, I don't want to go there. So I don't care about arresting people. I don't want the crime to happen. I want to disrupt the crime. So I want to focus on not having a crime to begin with, rather than responding to it is easy. It's the before that's hard. And it takes, that saying, it takes a village. Well, it takes the whole town for that to happen. Sorry.
Thank you, guys. So you've talked a little bit about preventative target hardening, and I wanted to know how often the schools are formally and comprehensively assessed for target hardening and improvements made.
Yeah, excellent question. So we adhere to the state all hazards guideline, and we're required to do a summative assessment every 2 years. I'm actually putting together the all hazards plan for the district now, and that includes assessments. But I think what's important is, while the summative assessment is really a formal assessment, right? Unless something at the school changes, they're kind of the same every year because it's the same building, right? The same doors, the same cameras, the same windows. So unless we have something changing, like a Riverside project coming up or the OG project, and those get a different type of assessment because that's part of the school security and safety infrastructure, and there's specific guidelines on that. So the plans actually have to get submitted to the state, and they have to review them and say, okay, you're following the guidelines. What I can tell you is that we follow all the guidelines from that, and it's 10-292R is the statute that refers to this. And basically what it says in there, it talks about target hardening, dual vestibules, electronic access control, cameras, all the things that we currently do. patented key coding systems for the physical key. We have a hierarchical keying system so that somebody can't just get a key and go make a copy of it. So all those things in place create that secure bubble around the school. But as important as those are, I prefer the daily assessments, because if you wait every 2 years to do a formal assessment, that's 2 years of time has gone by. And really, and this is what Deputy Chief Zuccarello mentioned before, is that team effort where people, when they walk in the school, right, see something, tell us, right, let us know, call me. The principals will call me if they have an issue. We work to get that addressed right away. If the officers who are on the school patrol are at the school and they see that there's something, there's a bush covering a camera or a door isn't functioning correctly, they'll let me know, and I get facilities to work on that right away. So the daily is really the more important one, because that's the one that's going to keep our kids safe today. The other one, as far as I'm concerned, is really just to kind of check the box, right? The daily is what's the most important, because that's right now, that's as real time as you can get.
Gentlemen, we have an online question.
A few community members have thought, could you speak a little bit about any exploration you guys have done into using outside sources to beef up security, whether it's retired police officers or, outside firms?
That's something that I've mentioned before. We're sitting down talking about trying to flesh out ideas and do that, and to talk about ideas like that. Again, it's something that we're always in the assessing stages, but it is something that we are talking about. And when we get to something that we think is workable and doable, we will bring it up with the other community partners, and especially with the Board of Ed, to see how we could do that. As I mentioned before, we are always assessing and trying to see what we can do better and how we can do it better, which goes back to what Brent said just was with regard to the assessments. Every day is the schools are being assessed. The officers are walking around checking things, the seeing things. For example, if a door is propped open, that's like a major no-no, and it has been a major no-no for some time. Luckily, we don't have any doors propped open. That's not knock on wood, please, for this year. But things like that. So again, we are assessing and looking to do things, and if we have to pivot, we pivot. I'm not afraid to pivot and go a different direction if it means to improve service and improve the quality of what we're doing.
Yeah, I've looked at some private security companies. I'm working with one right now because of the Julian Curtis project. There was some timeline issues with the construction of the front vestibule, and we actually hired a guard through the building committee to work the front door there, because that door doesn't meet the safety guidelines right now because it's not a dual vestibule. There are other issues that we have to take up with our stakeholders in partnership with the police regarding private security in the town and in the schools, as well as vetting them properly to ensure that they're not only going to just be there, but they're going to be able to do something.
Excuse me. Do you foresee any budgetary or funding issues that are going to come up with all of the upgrades and cameras that you're adding? And I know we're entering budget cycle again, so I'm just wondering, are you asking for more than you usually do? Is there some sort of standard increase year over year, or how are you guys predicting that process to go?
So as far as the budget is concerned, I have a pretty good budget for security. It incorporates both the guards up at the high school, and then also any materials that I may have to buy throughout the year, or services I may have to purchase. As far as the upgrades that I mentioned earlier for Riverside and Eastern, those are well within my budget this year. So I'm able to fund those without a problem. And I'm a very good steward of your tax dollars. So when I get these phone calls about the newest, greatest thing, that's why I vet them out so carefully, because there is a finite amount of resources. And we want to spend them on the things that matter most, not the new shiny thing, right? So yeah, it's well within budget this year. If I needed to ask for more money, I certainly would. I'm not afraid to ask for what I need. And then it would be a matter for the decision makers. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're going to have one more question, and then Dr. Jones is going to have something to say.
Hi, thank you. We appreciate everything you guys do, especially principals, and your presence at the schools are great. Regarding being preventative, have you looked into any bulletproof window films? I know there's some on the market. I know they're expensive, but a lot of our schools have street level windows, and I find that the children are very exposed. And I was wondering if you've looked into that or how we could potentially go about it. I know we'd have to go across all school lines, but maybe that could be something that we could look into.
Sure, excellent question. So just to be clear, there is no such thing as ballistic film that you can apply to a standard 3/8-inch tempered glass window and prevent a bullet from going through it. You actually have to get ballistic glass, which is 1.25 inches, and requires structural changes. What you're referring to, I believe, is penetration resistant laminate that 3M makes. So basically what that is that's a laminate that can be retroactively applied to a window and prevent somebody from getting through it, say with a bat or a blunt object. You'll still be able to shoot through it. There are a couple of products that I'm looking at right now. One of them, the 3M product, is not ballistic rated. They just go up and hit it when they test it. The other product that I'm looking at is actually ballistic tested, where they shoot it first and then they hit it. And it's a better product, and we can retroactively apply those to windows. There are windows those are going to get applied to, but again, in an open forum, I'm not going to discuss where they are. And it's a very cost-effective method for hardening a target. Yeah.
Joan.
Dr. Jones.
Thank you. First of all, let me just say thank you to all three of you for doing this today, and thank you to the parents for asking us to do this. We had a safety seminar last year that actually had Chief Hebe there as well, and I would encourage you to go out if you really want to look at the whole district and even dig deeper. There's a lot of great information that is there on that video as well. So I also want to just reiterate that I feel so great, and I think it's what Jen was saying, in the model that we have. A lot of thought went into this model, and we have actual police officers who are highly trained that are out in our buildings every single day dedicated to us. And that's very unusual. There are school districts that may have like a greeter at the door. That's a minimum wage security guard that isn't armed. They're not trained. And most of them, the average age is about 20. And I say that because when we went with this model, working with Chief Hebe at the table, we actually did go out with an RFP and interviewed security companies and tried to really look at what was the best model for Greenwich. And in the end, it was a very hard decision because this is an expensive model. And again, the chief was willing to give us officers to make this happen. And I will say thank you to the parents, because about 3 years ago, we were actually looking at, are we going to have to give up one of the officers? And it was our parents who came out en masse and said, absolutely not, and went to the BET meeting and spoke out, and we were able to keep this model. So I just want to say thank you to the parents for doing that. But again, just to build the confidence that we have the best of the best out looking out after our schools. And I am so incredibly grateful every single day for having these officers that work with us. So thank you for all that you do. And I'll close it out.
All right, anything else, Brent?
I'd just like to close by thanking everybody for coming out, participating in this. As I mentioned, you're the first layer of security. The takeaway for me from this discussion is how important the relationships between all of us really are. We can make a fortress, but it only takes one person to let them in, right? So I think it's the relationships that are so important to us. And I'll provide you all with my cards if you have questions or you want to contact me or come and have a cup of coffee. I'm always here.
All right. Thank you so much, Sheldon. On your way out, please grab some brownies and cookies. I was up all night.